But on that final night, she had given herself an overdose of morphine, which she clearly thought would end her life.
Yes.
And it didn't. What did you do then?
Well, she, as you said, obviously thought that the amount she injected 24-hour dose in one go straight into a vein. And she thought or hoped that that would be enough to end her life. And when she found it didn't, she knocked for me. And I went through to her bedroom, and she was lying there and held up the syringe and tears in her eyes. And I just said, "What have you done?" And I just sat down beside her. And we spoke for about an hour and a half. And she said, that she had taken it and that she really couldn't. And we had been talking about Christmas, because it was the beginning of December, and about dignitas. And I said, we have to wait till after Christmas. So I was saying to her, why have you done this? Because you promised me that we'd have a nice Christmas and wait. And she said, I can't go on not another day. I really just can't do it anymore. And please help me. Please get some more. I can't get up. She's completely paralysed. She couldn't even lift her head at the pillow. And she said, I can't get up and get it myself. And you're the only one I can ask. So please help me. And I understood. And I could see what she was saying was right. She said, everyone else has the right. If they want to die, they can go and do whatever they have to do. And she said, just because I'm so ill, I can't do it.
And so you did it. You gave her the extra morphine. You gave her more medication because you were worried that she was in pain and anxiety.
Yes.
And your daughter died in front of you eventually, although it took a long time.
Yes.
How, when Lynn was in such a state and the night was so desperate, did you manage to communicate with each other?
Lynn was very calm. Even though it was a desperate situation, she was very calm. And she had made up a sign language years ago. The people close to her had learned a sign language. And it was very, very slow at first, but we got quite fast at doing it, and I could guess words. She'd do one letter shape on her hand. So we got that we could communicate about anything, and quite quickly, actually.
You were then charged with attempted murder on the one count.
Yes.
And assisted suicide, for which you pleaded guilty.
Yes, I immediately pleaded guilty to
How did you cope with the trial when they were talking about attempted murder?
I felt, when they charged me with attempted murder first, I was sort of numb. And then when it sunk in, I felt very indignant that how on earth can they accuse me of attempting to murder Lynn, whom I loved so much and cared for so long? Why can't they see that it was Lynn trying to end her life and then asking me for help? So I was assisting her with her suicide. And in fact, it was explained to me that it was because Lynn's actions and my actions were treated separately. Lynn was unconscious when I administered medication, even though most was normal medication to make sure she wasn't suffering. But my actions and not calling for help, but especially my actions of giving her medication when she was unconscious, that separated the two, and that came into the area of attempted murder.
Now, the jury found you not guilty of attempted murder, and the judge virtually threw out the case of assisted suicide as well.
Yes.
What, having been through all that, should the law on assisted suicide be, given that we know some people need protection from unscrupulous relatives?
Yeah. I appreciate fully that vulnerable people have to be protected, and there's no doubt about that whatsoever. But what about people who are in a situation like Lynn, who make it absolutely clear to everybody who knows them that they want to die, that death is a friend, is a release, because they've suffered so long. Why should they not be allowed the same rights as somebody else who's able to do that for themselves? I don't know what the answer is, but we need something that will protect the vulnerable, but also allow somebody like Lynn to die with dignity and not to have to try to do it herself in the middle of the night, have to beg her mother to help her, die frightened of what's going to happen to her mother, not be able to say goodbye to her father and her brother, so that maybe a group of people, the doctors, the nurses, an independent person, the family, all agree that this person has thought very seriously. Lynn was very strong. She faced up to it. She gave it deep thought. She didn't just decide on a whim. She thought about it for at least 2 years more.
How do you manage now, Kay, without her?
In the beginning, after she died, I just took one day at a time, and I had terrific support from family, friends, neighbours from all over the country. I had thousands of letters from people all supporting me, all saying lovely things. But it was still incredibly hard because, of course, I've been with Lynn nearly constantly for 17 years and we were very close. And it's still incredibly hard being here without her. And I miss her terribly all the time. As much as my heart is broken by her death, that I must keep going and living and carrying on and doing the things she wanted me to do.
Kay Gilderdale was talking to me about her daughter Lynn.